gentlemen, welcome to the PC Gaming Show! Yes! Yeah! All right. Our very next guest is one of the creators of a game called DayZ. Oh, revered. He worked on DayZ for quite a while before departing to create his own studio and his upcoming project. So please join me in welcoming Dean Hall from RocketWorks. Dean. Welcome to the show, Dean.
Cheers.
Now, Dean, I want to start right away by talking about early access. You're one of the people with the biggest range of experience with early access. What do you feel like the status of it is right now?
Well, I guess I kind of have mixed feelings in some ways. Like, it's given us games like Kerbal Space Program, Prison Architect, but it also has its challenges, both for consumers and developers.
Right.
And I mean, I think Valve's refund program has helped a bit with maybe perceptions and stuff like that. But it's challenging as a developer, particularly when your game gets really popular.
Now, that seems sort of paradoxical. I feel like most people would say, oh, it's great to be popular, but what was the strain that you were under?
Well, I mean, one of the advantages of early access is, like with Kerbal Space Program, the scope was allowed to get bigger. But if your game gets really popular and you're continually redefining your scope, then you kind of lose perspective of your roadmap. And I think that's why I feel the roadmap's super important.
Yeah, and what exactly would that constitute? Like, if you were working on another early access project, how would you want to communicate it outwardly to the consumer?
Well, I played a game called Neo Scavenger, and hopefully people know it, it's PC Gamer, so it had a really great roadmap that told you like what stuff was completed, and I think that was something I learned as being super important, because otherwise people don't have a picture of where your game's at.
So with your upcoming game, Ion, let's take a look at some of the trailer footage, and I want to know, what, in your eyes, is the first big target for a project that's this ambitious?
Well, I think actually a great game is more about what you don't put in than what you do. So I guess in some ways it's easier to describe what this isn't. You know, it's not Star Citizen, it's not Elite, it's not Eve. We wanted to look at what happens inside the stations. So we're using a more Diablo-style camera. It's based on a game that I absolutely love called Space Station 13. Has anyone played Space Station 13 out there? Yeah, look at that.
You and you and you.
Honk,
Yes.
honk, honk, honk. So, yeah. I guess that's kind of where I come from with that.
Yeah, I'm actually curious with Ion. I mean, this sort of footage, it sort of hints to the gameplay, but if I open up Ion, what am I literally seeing and literally doing in the game in those early steps?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to give people an opportunity to see what it's like to be a pioneer and go around the stations. So we're sort of stitching together these regions and then allowing players to have their own region and then walk around the region. So yeah, I mean, we wanted to get back from that first-person view and actually get back into that Diablo-style view. So it becomes more about what you're doing in the game.
So is it not a 3D environment, or is it like 2D
It is.
with like a Z
No,
plane?
it's a 3D environment. It's
Okay.
not true isometric, but yeah, offset camera.
So, I mean, I know that there's a lot of ambition going into this project, and there's some people that feel like you abandoned the DayZ project. It had such a huge, ambitious scope. I mean, it pretty much spawned the zombie survival genre, and then you departed. I know a lot of people were upset. I mean, I think even on your Twitter it said that you're going to block people who talk about DayZ.
I did for a while, yeah.
Nice.
I didn't, though. Like, yeah, that's kind of stupid.
Well, now you can mute them. I'm kidding. Please tweet at me, at Day9TV. Now, well, I'm curious how, with that stigma, how you try to shirk that and deal with that when you're working on this next project.
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to learning the lessons. And I think that when I first came up with DayZ, it was an accident. I mean, it was a mod that I thought maybe 50 people would play, but a lot of people played it. And when I first looked at what to do, I realized I didn't have the resources, and so I sold it to Bohemia, who I knew had the ability to make the game. And I stayed a lot longer than I'd originally intended, but Ion is an example of a game that I've always wanted to make, and yeah, so it's a challenge, and I think really it's now about me proving that I have learned lessons and that, yeah, we deliver on stuff.
So what do you expect to be a timeline to where we can begin to get our hands on it? And what would you want that initial prototype to be?
Well, we're showing very little at the moment because we're very conscious that to really make early access work and to make a decent game, we need to have more of a Besieged style approach. Who's played Besieged? Yeah, look at that. It's good, right?
I built a catapult.
They made a really polished core, and I think that's exactly what early access needs. So that's what we're doing. We don't have an exact time frame for that. We've already pushed a couple of times. Yeah.
Now, because we only have a short time left, I have to ask, having played DayZ, I want to know for Ion, what's the best bug thus far?
Oh, the best bug, yeah. So fairly recently, when you were clicking on another player, all their organs fell out. So we... Yeah, so it's a persistent game, so when your brain fell out, you couldn't do anything. So, and also your liver is kind of important.
And if a kidney falls out, you're actually okay, you have another kidney, right?
That's right, yeah. Although all your organs fell out, so...
So you have realistic organ simulation in
Yeah,
Ion?
yeah. The technology we're using, Improbable, the company that I've partnered for a joint venture in London, they've made this amazing technology that allows us to simulate all entities in the world. And I think that's what's really been able to allow us to double down on the concept.
Well, you've teased a lot of cool ideas. I look forward to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Dean Hall.
Thanks, PC Gamers.
Thank you, Dean.
PC.
I'm going to step around my chair in the unusual suitcase brought from AMD that I'm not entirely sure what's inside, because this is now a time to halt talking and to do the first live demo on stage. Ooh. Yes, thank you for buying into that. The game is going to be one that you may have seen on Kickstarter that had one of the best Kickstarter videos of all time. It's a game called Strafe. Please join me in welcoming from Pixel Titans, Tom Gallant and Stephen Rainey. Hello, welcome.
What's up, dog?
Let's go ahead and get set up over here on the side. Now, I've seen the Kickstarter video, and I want to know a little bit about what the inspiration for Strafe is.
The inspiration for Strafe is paying homage to the games we loved in our childhood.
How you tell the kids?
I do. I tell them there's no crying in
giving it
baseball.
infinite replayability.
Yeah. I mean, well, first let's talk about the environment. My understanding is that everything in the game has a procedurally generated component to it. So in terms of the environment, is everything we're seeing procedural, or are these handcrafted rooms?
These are all handcrafted rooms. Each zone will have 40 to 50 rooms in it, filled with entrances, exits, different geometry, and secrets. And the engine kind of, puts them together. They'll unlock them, change things every time you play. Enemies have behaviors, so every time you jump in, it should be a different experience.
And you talked about the idea of having secrets locked in there. You're talking about the Quake Doom style, really capturing that element?
Yeah, we have a bunch of monster closets in the game tied to different events, as well as just having unique levels and very different gameplay experiences in the secret levels.
So how do you play test the sort of procedurally generated environment? I mean, do you have fears of redundant content, people re-entering the same rooms again? What keeps it fresh?
By all means. We have a lot of scripting that will tell the levels how to behave, and just through playing them again and again and again, we're able to find the things we like and we don't like and just work around it.
And in terms of these monsters, is there a fixed set? Do they randomly get paired with the room? Because I'm noticing this sort of rock monsters the first time we've gotten a chance to see them.
Oh yeah, well this whole zone is brand new. We're showing it off here first. Some of these enemies are brand new, and they all have different behaviors. They don't just see you and run after you. So the rock monster, he starts in a hiding state. He'll aggro, and then there's different, waves of his behavior.
I gotta say, I love the very chunky bullets, where each bullet is clearly a rectangular prism. I mean, I know you've talked about the goal of being an homage to these old games, but you do have the opportunity to use more advanced technology. Where do you ride the line between wanting new and fresh and wanting to stick true to the old vision?
Well, we wanted to bring things that couldn't happen back then to the game. So
Yeah.
we have all of the blood and the guts in the game are persistent. So every time you play, you just can paint rooms red. You can cover them with this acid. So if you actually step on the acid, you'll get hurt. So you can actually put yourself into a corner. And with these weapons, you just picked up a rocket launcher, and you can't reload these these weapons we're using as power-ups. You
Oh, really?
empty them, and then they turn into a different type of weapon. With the rocket launcher, turned into like a baseball bat melee-style weapon.
So this is a gun that we're about to see thrown?
Yes.
So when my gun runs out of bullets, I just throw it.
Yes. When you start the game, you choose between a machine gun, a railgun, and a shotgun.
Okay.
And those will be your core weapons throughout the game, in which
I see.
you level them up. You kind of they adapt and evolve, and you'll kind of always default back to those. But there'll be plenty of things for you to fight within the game.
So of course I got to know what is the sort of expected gameplay loop like of someone who sits down to play?
Well, you jump in, you shoot stuff in the face, you paint shit red, and then you die and do it over again. So,
Clean and elegant. You should
Yeah.
hang out with Tripwire.
love those guys.
Thank you so much for showcasing Strafe. Again, guys, please check it out.
Thanks
The
for checking
Kickstarter
out.
video is hilarious. The persistent shooter. Gentlemen, thank you for coming out and showcasing today. Oh, setting up the next game for us as well. Oh, such
Always.
a gentleman. Now, our next guest is working on an absolutely beautiful and unusual indie game called Beyond Eyes. Let's welcome to the stage Sharida Halato. Hey! Welcome!
Hey,
Thrilled to finally get the chance to meet you. Please come join me.
all right.
Now, Sharida, I was wondering if you could
Yes.
tell me a little bit about the core gameplay of Beyond Eyes.
Okay, so it's an exploration game, and it
Right.
literally means that if you don't explore, you don't get to see anything because the whole world is completely white until you start walking around. So because she's blind, she kind of uses her other senses to visualize the world. So if she smells things or if she hears certain sounds, she will just visualize them as she perceives them at that moment. But then because she's kind of sheltered, she doesn't always have the right reference to pull from. So she hears something, and she thinks of something that she knows because it's familiar in a garden. For
Right.
example, like a fountain or something. But then when she comes closer and smell kind of starts coming in, she realizes this is not a fountain. It's actually a very nasty sewer drainage. And you kind of play with that.
I mean, the big thing that I always, immediately strikes me when I see the footage is just the beautiful art style. But of course, audio is a really interesting piece to the way that the environment's explored.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that, audio as a mechanic.
Yeah, sure. I can do that. No, I wanted to make the game work on several levels. So with the audio design for the game, we started thinking about sounds that are similar to other sounds and kind of identify what something can be. And the same thing, like we wanted to make sure that the way it's visualized works
Right.
with that theme as well.
And I mean, in terms of the art style, as you're iterating through, you're talking about visual representations different from what it actually is. What was
Yes.
that process like of testing these to make sure that the player wouldn't be confused while exploring these environments?
So originally, when I started making this game, I was in college. So we would basically, I started working on it with a friend, and we would have this basket of cupcakes, and like say to other people, other classmates of us who were also testing, like, can you come in? You get a free cupcake. Here's a bunch of sounds, just the textures, smells. Can you tell me what you think it is? To kind of get that baseline of how things were
Right.
perceived by different people based on their experiences. So that was kind of the start of it. And after that, it's just a lot of thinking and talking to people and trying, basically, iterating on the thing.
And what has really been a big challenge for you as an indie developer working on a first-time title like Beyond Eyes?
Scope. Basically, yes. So Beyond Eyes, I think I was lucky that I never made and released the game before because I've been working on the game for 4 years.
Yeah.
And if I had known from the start that it was going to be this long of a process, I probably would have contained myself a little better, but because I didn't know, I kind of got very overly excited and kept adding things, and it became a lot bigger and more ambitious. So getting the scope there was certainly a good lesson for a future project.
Well, I've said this before, and I will continue to say it. I think the art style is absolutely beautiful, and I look forward to the final product. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Sharida. And now let's take a look at a completely different kind of first-person experience, a game recently announced from the maker of Gone Home. Their upcoming title is called Tacoma. Let's bring to the stage Steve Gaynor from Fulbright. Hey, Steve.
How you doing, man?
Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Now, I know that Tacoma was revealed yesterday. The sort of teaser trailer's been out for a little bit. We're going to take a look at it now, and this is really the first chance that we get to talk about the game. I mean, walk me through what the experience of Tacoma is.
Well, it's a first-person exploration game. You know, like Gone Home, it's about exploring a place and finding out the story of what happened there. But in this case, unlike that game, we're in a near-future kind of high-tech space station setting, where not only are you seeing these kind of digital recordings of things that happen on the station, but you can use the zero-gravity environment to your advantage to propel yourself through the environment and see it from all different angles.
What are the sort of gameplay opportunities that open up when you get that sort of zero-G space?
Well, I think something that is, I guess, in a way limiting about your traditional kind of walking simulator, if you will, is it all effectively takes place on a 2D plane. You know, like you're in this room and you're walking here and you're looking for things, and that can be very interesting. But what we're excited about with Tacoma is you can be here and you can say, I found what's here, but if I could get up there and I could go across the ceiling over there and find out what else there is to discover, you can basically treat this three-dimensional space as a fully three-dimensional playground for exploration.
So it's like parkour light. You can really just go over there if you want to go over there.
Yeah, parkour is a lot less dangerous when there's not gravity involved.
True statement. Now, you've talked a little bit about the growing ambition of Tacoma when compared to Gone Home, and that you also want it to be a free-form experience. But how do you make sure that you're not letting a player slip off the rails in an environment like a space station?
I mean, I guess, you know, it all comes down to level design, right? Like, to use the environment to give the player the freedom to explore it on their own, to not say, you have to go here, then there, and really, like, guide the player by the nose and say, here's how you have to play the game, but still let the environment point them to say, well, there might be something here. If you're finished here, this might still be interesting over here. And basically work in collaboration with the player to help them find all the cool stuff in the game without forcing their hand, you know?
Yeah, I mean, Gone Home was a relatively small environment in a house. I mean, how large is the space station Tacoma?
It's definitely not an expansive city-sized facility, right? It's a small way station between the Earth and the Moon. There's a crew of 6 that live there, you know, year-round. And so it is still kind of an intimate space where these people live their lives, but obviously very, very different from a family's home in the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's probably hard to get reference points in a space station that you would in a house.
Right, yeah. You can't exactly just, you know, open up a Sears catalog from the 90s and say what kind of furniture would there have been in this space station. So that's one of the things that we're really excited about is Gone Home was really about recreating a point in time and a place that has really existed.
Yeah.
And with Tacoma, we're able to imagine what this place might be like 70 years from now and where the world we live in now could lead to. And that's the world that the characters in the game live in. That's really what you're discovering as you play.
And I really think it's so cool the way you've taken the sort of familiar mechanic of the first-person exploration and really created a story around the environment with Gone Home and now with Tacoma. So thanks so much for coming out to intro it and to talk about it a little bit.
Awesome.
So,
thank you so much for having me.
Steve Gaynor from Fulbright.
Thanks, everybody. Cool. Cheers, man.
Now here's an introduction that has a little bit of personal pain associated with it. There's a game I streamed myself playing a while ago called Amnesia: The Dark Descent. It was emasculating. The game's pretty scary. And of course, the folks over at Frictional Studios have been hard at work continuing to expand the horror genre with their upcoming title, Soma. Let's bring on the stage Ian Thomas to talk about it.
Hi guys. Thank you, Sean. So yeah, since we released Amnesia nearly 5 years ago now, we've been working on something a bit different. We really wanted to take horror in a slightly different direction. We wanted to take what we'd done with Amnesia, deepen it, but start asking some really disturbing questions about our place in the world, about identity, and about what it really means to be human. So we've created Soma. It's a new horror game. It's set deep under the sea, and you're about to see some never-before-seen footage of it. Go ahead.
Catherine, are you in there? Catherine?
Be quiet! Don't look at it!
Already stressed out. Now, we got the chance to do an earlier demo with Strafe, but this upcoming demo, I am going to be a participant. And it's going to be a game called Enter the Gungeon. Let's warmly welcome Dave Crooks and Joe Hardy. Hello.
Hi, how you doing?
Welcome. Now, let's go ahead and hop right into the game where I'm going to be playing co-op. I have my controller here. Now, I've practiced a little bit, but the pressure's on, so I'm just going to ask you to explain while I try my hardest to win.
Sure. Enter the Gungeon is a bullet hell dungeon crawler, and we're really excited to show co-op for the first time, as well as this new tile set and a new boss at the end of the demo. So if Joe, you want to let Day 9 out of his cage?
I'm locked in a chest. Here's me. Yes. Now, we're stepping into these rooms, and my understanding is, as you said, it's a mix between Binding of Isaac and these bullet hell sort of shooters.
Absolutely.
So walk me through just the basics of what we're seeing right now.
So each room is hand designed, but the procedural generation builds floors according to a set of rules that we think makes really good dungeon design.
Yeah.
And we're really big fans of Ikaruga and Dark Souls. So when we went to go and make a bullet hell game, we thought to ourselves, what better way to manage the bullet hell patterns than a dodge roll with iframes in it? So when all the bullets are coming at you, the best thing you can do is actually dodge straight through the bullets. And you'll see that in the boss coming up.
And I'll try my hardest. And I mean, you earlier when we first got the chance to touch on this demo, you just said to me straight up, this is a hard game. You're going to need to practice it a lot. I mean, what is it about that extremely difficult experience that you find so compelling?
Well, just to be honest, victory is always more rewarding when you earn it.
Right.
So it's not difficulty for the sake of difficulty. We make it difficult, and then we provide the player with as many tools as we can to give them a good chance to avoid damage themselves, so they really feel like they earned it. And we have the dodge roll with iframes, but we also have some staples of shmup games, like when explosions go off, they actually delete bullets. There's various items that will wipe bullets off the screen. So you just need to use all the tools available to you to survive.
I mean, this looks like it has so many influences from so many games. I mean, even this boss reminds me very much of Link to the Past.
Yes, this is our version of the Armos fight from Link to the Past, just with a lot more bullets.
I want you to know I am trying as hard as I can. So far, I don't think I've been hit more than once.
But you're doing very good.
You do have God mode enabled for me because of that fear that I'm... Yeah, see, watch this. Yeah. Before we went live, they're like, we're worried Sean is washed up.
Yeah, well,
is there any chance we can get him training in God mode?
Yeah, well, you know.
It happens. All right, that did not go very successfully for me.
But luckily, Joe has an extremely OP weapon here to demolish the rest of these statues.
So what is the variety of weaponry like in the game?
There's actually over 200 hand-designed weapons in the game.
Oh my god.
And as you play over the course of multiple runs, you'll unlock more and more of them.
We got him! Yay!
Yeah.
So I basically go down, battle, and then, oh, this is... Whoever was in charge of this design gets it.
I don't know if you guys can hear it, but when you actually shoot that weapon, it changes the music to something extremely happy.
Yeah. So the game loop is go in the dungeon,
flip tables, dodge roll, shoot everything, probably die, but hopefully along the way you've unlocked some new stuff that you can use in the next runs.
For any of you who are big fans of the Twitch action gameplay, I strongly recommend Enter the Gungeon. Thank you so much, guys,
Thank you very much.
for coming out, showcasing it today. Thank you. It is time for our final guest of the night. I hope you guys have enjoyed our show throughout. We've gotten the chance to see one of the long-standing sci-fi series of the PC, and now we're getting a chance to look at one of the new ones. Let's take a look at a game that has ambition in spades. It's No Man's Sky. Sean Murray, the co-founder of Hello Games. Hello, Sean.
Hi.
Pleasure to finally get the chance to meet you, Sean. Now, I know up until now, No Man's Sky has only been confirmed for PS4.
Yeah.
Is there some news you have for me?
Yeah, so we were actually going to announce a release date at E3, but for reasons we can't. We'll announce the release date soon, and when we announce that release date, it will be for PS4 and PC at the same time.
Yay! Now, I mean, I mentioned this before you came out. The ambition of this game is massive. And how big's your team?
There's about 10 of us.
God! I mean, the trailer looks amazing.
That trailer was really full of itself. Did you see all those quotes? Who put that together?
I know you had your own typeface in there.
Yeah, I thought Hello Games
It had the
was
Cannes
humble.
Festival, like, sort of laurels.
What's happened to them? LA has got to them.
But how do you go about... Sorry, I find that very funny. How do you go about playtesting something that's so heavily based on procedural generation?
Well, you have to do a lot of like normal human playtesting, but we talked about this a little bit before, that we actually have effectively bots. And we run a server, and these AI bots, they go and visit planets, and they actually record little animated GIFs, and they keep track of memory usage and frame rate and things like that. So we send out our little AI drone spiders, and they, come back from the cosmos telling us how things are going and how the game's shaping up, basically.
And I mean, when Sharita was out earlier, she talked about that with her game, the biggest concern was keeping scope under control. How do you, I mean, maybe you didn't.
We didn't.
Yeah, how? I mean, just with something this massive, walk me through what the process is of how you decide what goes in the game, what doesn't go in the game, what you're trying to hit. Because when I look at No Man's Sky, it seems almost like an everything game.
Yeah, somebody said that to me. It sounds like a game design of like a child, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to take that. I guess, yeah, probably that's true. I think, we grew up playing games like Elite, stuff like that,
Right.
And I guess this was the game, for me at least, that I imagined at the time, and actually, there were a lot more games, there were a lot more open like that in those kind of like Commodore 64 days and like early PC days. There were a lot more freer, and open, and kind of, almost wild. Like I remember you would get your keyboard and you would have no idea what anything did, and you would press all the buttons on it, and that's how you discover it. Right, exactly. And so nobody's really tried games like this so much since then. I mean, I think there has been a wave of them, like on PC recently, right? Especially in early access, things that are more kind of open, more sandboxy and stuff like that. And that's definitely where we kind of place ourselves.
I'm sort of curious, going back in time a little bit, when was the moment that you thought that you could really pull this off?
I'm not sure that's arrived yet. No, I think we grow more and more in confidence, in what we're doing, but this E3 is kind of when we've been showing people, going on hands-on, and even kind of last night at the Sony press conference, just playing it live and showing people how it is. It's a weird feeling to work on a game that so many people say, I'm not sure if it's real and things like that, because
of course,
you know that it is. You're playing it every day and stuff like that. So it's odd. It is ambitious in some ways, but in other ways, it's not. It's perfectly doable by a small team because we're using the computer to generate everything rather than trying to generate everything ourselves.
Well, I mean, it is really a feat of procedural generation, everything you've been able to pull off. I love the vibrant art style. I will continue to follow No Man's Sky closely. Our final guest, ladies and gentlemen, Sean Murray. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we have successfully done the first ever PC Gaming Show! Thank you all so much for coming out tonight. Thank you, Internet, for joining us as well via Twitch. Enormous shout out to the sponsors, AMD, Bohemia, Tripwire, Xbox, Microsoft, and Digital Storm, they were all so supportive of the idea that PC gaming needed its own show as an open platform. I'd like to give a special thanks to the wonderful folk at PC Gamer for pulling so much of this off. Hooray, PC Gamer! And thank you once again for coming out tonight. My name is Sean Plott. Go play more video games. Bye.